Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It's a beautiful Monday morning, May 9th, 2022. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central, to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, success stories, and also updates. So today we're going to be announcing or launching the relaunch, if you will, of Fundingproposal.online. So first, let me give you a little bit of a background on Fundingproposal.online. Then we'll talk about what makes it 2.0, the updates. We'll compare it to the other point of entry, 4-week funding, and then answer questions. When we came up with the Fundingproposal.online concept initially, it was recognizing that there's a good number of small businesses that are looking for funding and that they want an easy way to get some offers. And so without any commitment of accepting any of the given offers, to generate some offers based upon a simple and quick one-page application. So we had launched Fundingproposal.online, had some good traction with it, and it grew and it grew. And then the problem became that because we were running it through Adobe. Adobe's like DocuSign for an online e-app. We got to such volume that we exceeded the amount of volume that we were allowed to through Adobe. So we had to pivot off of Adobe and bring it in-house in terms of having an integrated application, which we have now. So let's briefly go through this value proposition, and you can ask any questions you have. So the concept is help small businesses obtain a free funding proposal for small business financing. There's a brief video here explaining that it shouldn't be difficult. And essentially they start the process by just putting in this information. Part of the problem that we were having on the prior iteration is that some of you that are referral partners would just kind of randomly put clients' information into the queue, and then they get this application for funding and they're like, well, wait, why am I getting that? And so this is designed whereby you certainly can put the clients or the prospective clients' information in, or you can direct them to this page. And then once they submit this, it'll take them to the full application, which is not very onerous. And then they can finalize that and we can get them some funding offers within 24 hours. It's just, it was very concerning to some prospects that didn't know that they were going to get a funding application, because what you and I know is if we're trying to get a funding application, we have to ask some specific information that, unless they're trying to go for funding, they find rather intrusive. So this allows them to start very simply. If they don't complete the process of the application, Scott Stroud, our Chief Marketing Officer, has done a remarkable job in building follow-up emails and text to prompt them to move along. So the Fundingproposal.online is officially relaunched, and it's an integrated process that is not dependent upon an outside program like Adobe. At this point, you may be thinking, well, wait. What's the difference between Fundingproposal.online and 4-week funding? So these are two different points of entry. With the 4-week funding.org, we spend 28 days working with the small business owner to become credible on paper. We, of course, help them build their financial literacy, build a loan package, and help them become credible on paper to get funding. During that time, we guarantee them at least $10,000 under their EIN. And again, it's fully grant subsidized. So they pay zero now, they pay zero later. So this is still what I would recommend for most of you to use as your point of entry 4-week funding. If you don't have your own landing page, come down here, you fill this out, click yes. submit, and you'll get a link emailed to you. So you have a landing page that looks just like this. So technically, the 4weekfunding.org is a funding prep program. Other than the business credit that we help them build that we talked about, we're not taking them to full funding. It is the prep portion, the 28 days, assigning a mentor, building out the business plan, financial statement, support documents. It helps them become credible on paper. After that, if they would like to move to funding, guess where they go? To Fundingproposal online. So in the purest sense, this is step A and this is step B. Some of you want to take clients directly to step B, to go directly for a free funding proposal. And if you would like to do that, you can. Again, the site's up and operational. Once again, kudos to Scott Stroud, our Chief Marketing Officer, for putting this together, because it has outstanding follow-up. I mean, if they start this process and they don't finish, they're getting texts within an hour saying, hey, you're close. We're seeing a very high completion rate because of the automation that's built in. If you ask me my recommendation, I would focus on bringing people into 4-week funding first, though. Allow us to start building out their business plan and support documentation so they qualify for a larger business capital raise, and of course the guaranteed $10,000. But again, if you want to go directly to Fundingproposal, you can. The way that the tracking is currently set up is that if you feed them into 4weekfunding.org, again, you'll have your own unique landing page. So all this will be hard coded to you. You'll receive reporting. And then if you drive someone into 4weekfunding.org, you would never worry about taking them to fundingproposal.online, because the mentor that's working with them will determine if they want a first tranche of financing sooner than the 28 days and or at the end of the 28 days to go to funding. So if you do this, you don't really need to worry about fundingproposal.online. However, we wanted you to know that this exists. And so can you submit a client directly to fundingproposal.online? You can. You need to make sure that you list referred by. However, if you feed your prospects into 4weekfunding.org, then the mentor can help them move to funding either during the 28 days for an initial tranche or at the end of the 28 days when they're really ready to go. So that's the short and brief, sweet message today. Who has questions on whether it be the difference between 4weekfunding.org and Fundingproposal, or any other questions? All right, Charles has a question on the Fundingproposal. So what we're going to do is once they have completed this first page, Charles, and they submit it, it'll automatically take them to the next page systematically, so that they won't have to wait for an Adobe or a DocuSign. And then we'll collect some basic information about their business and basic information about the key person. The key person is referring to one of the owners that owns 20% or more. With that, we can get some funding offers put together. I think what Charles sees and what you understand, most of you probably understand, is that if you feed someone directly here, they're going to qualify for whatever they qualify for. If we start here, we're building their qualifications, so they're going to qualify for more types of funding and greater amounts. But I realize some people don't want to wait 28 days. I realize that they need funding right now. So with that, you could still bring them into 4-week funding, and then we could take them for their first tranche and kind of run these two parallel. Or if you have some prospects that just simply don't want to go through the curriculum building, they just want to go directly to funding, we can get them a funding offer. Timothy's asking about the funding offers. And so the typical client will get 4 to 7 cash funding offers by going through this process. The amount's going to be based upon their credibility, how they come to us, right? Because you see the difference. Here, we're improving their credibility. Here, we're taking them where they're at that specific point in time. Scott's not our chief marketing officer, the other Scott. Scott is asking what all types of funding. Well, sure, there's lots of options here. We can get SBA loans, SBA Express, lines of credit. There's many different types of funding, but the most basic element I want to make sure that you recognize is once we submit the proposal, we're getting funding offers based upon where they are at that point in time. And here, what we're doing is focusing on building their credibility so they qualify for more funding and more types of funding. Okay, let's see here. So we've got a few questions. Pierre asked for the 4-week funding over here on the left. We assign mentors, so that's a great point. So if you're a white label partner, you're not going to submit into either of these. If you're a white label partner, you have your own agreement, you're going to get them under your own contract, and you're going to do the mentoring. So thank you for pointing that out. If you're not a white label partner, or you don't want to do the mentoring, then you would submit them here, and then our team is going to do the mentoring through this. That was Pierre's question. Who does the mentoring through the 4-week funding? Is it us or is it the referring party? And so if the referring party wants to do the mentoring, that's a white label transaction, which is not what we're talking about here in either of the screens. Second question is on the funding proposal. How many tranches is the question? Tranches means how many rounds? Well, it's going to vary based upon the client's perspective. Or mitigating circumstances. We all know that clients want to get as much funding as quickly as possible with the cheapest cost of capital. We understand that. However, there will be times where clients come to us and the amount of capital that they need can't be all accomplished in one tranche, where it may need to have 2 tranches. And when I work for the SBA, I'll tell you that was not uncommon. We often would use the Chapman Fund. The Chapman Fund, which we've talked about some, is a loan program that goes from $30,000 to a max of $250,000. It's not through a bank, it's through a taxing authority, so it's a lot easier to qualify for, but it often is used in conjunction with an SBA loan. So again, the question was, how many tranches will a person's capital raise be? And there's not a simple answer to that. We'll have to work with the client and their circumstances. The fewer, the better, because we know that clients want fast and simple. All right, and then Cameron's asking about scheduling a call with his mentor. So everyone that goes through the 4-week funding program is assigned a mentor, and you should have received information about that and a Calendly link for whomever, whether it be me or one of the other mentors. So Cameron, you'd want to do that. You would want to use the Calendly link to get scheduled with your mentor. Okay, so let's kind of wrap it up and just make sure we're all on the same page. This is not meant to confuse. At the simplest element, we wanted you to know what happens if you submit people into 4-week funding. This is a completely free program to the client. You're paid 5 points off their capital raise, and that capital raise is going to come through the funding proposal model. So this is behind. Let's make it like this. Let's move it over. And so funding proposal operates behind 4-week funding. You'll normally want to refer people into 4weekfunding.org. You'll have your own landing page that'll look just like this. All of this will be linked to you. You'll be notified. You have reporting. This works really well. And then when we go to funding, it's going to come through fundingproposal.online as a second step. So this is in front. See, this is in front. This is in back. However, just for transparency, people can come directly into funding proposal. The downside is they're qualifying for whatever they qualify for at that moment because we've not done any work with them to improve their credibility yet. Does that make sense? At this time, and John's asking a good question, at this time, we don't plan on, and that's subject to change, but at this point, we don't plan on developing different affiliate programs and affiliate links for the funding proposal. What we really want to encourage you to do is to bring people into the free 4-week funding. And if they have a need, a desire to go to funding immediately, even before they're done with the 28 days, we can go ahead and run them through this without waiting for the 28 days. But the true design of the system is to bring them in, spend 4 weeks with them, build their credibility, and then go to funding. Does that make sense? Okay, who has questions, comments, concerns? Joseph, thank you. Joseph's one of our top white label partners, and he's just given us accolades on this approach and explaining it. So you're welcome, Joseph. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else have questions on the relaunch of funding proposal? Yes, you can access it directly if you would like, but it's really intended to be step B. Step A is for us to work with them and get them as credible as possible. If they do need an initial tranche of capital while they're going through it, then we can jump into funding proposal. But if you will come here, if you've not done so, fill this out, get your referral link, your landing page, your URL, which is 100% free, drive people to it, which many of you are doing. Take Fred, for example. Fred has referred in, I think, 40 people over the weekend. It's, as of the recording, it's Monday morning. So some of you are just crazy effective. Others are dripping along. But we just wanted to be transparent and help you understand the process that they go through. So if you're a white label partner, you're contracting with the clients, you don't follow this process and you set your own terms. If you're a referral partner, which is what happens for free by filling this out, then you're going to be paid 5 points of the client's capital raise. What's not included is any of this business credit that we're getting for them. We don't charge a performance fee. But for their cash funding, you will be paid 5% as they go through the funding process. They raise $100,000, that's $5,000. Of course, it could be more. Reggie asked if there's any cost for the client for the free funding program. No, sir. It is set up. The full $2,500 is offset by a grant. There's no cost for the client for the free 4-week funding program. Thank you, Reggie, for asking. Pierre says, thanks for the clarity. You're welcome. Okay, David asked, so it may be determined by the mentor that a client may go to funding quickly. Yes. Here's the mindset that those of us are mentoring have. Unless the client expresses a need to go right to funding, we'd prefer to finish the prep work first, because this is strengthening their file so they're going to qualify for more funding, more types of funding, and better terms. But if it's uncovered, David, as we go through the client's 4-week process, that they just really need a first tranche of financing right away, that's fine. We don't have to complete the free 4-week funding to go ahead and get them some funding offers. And then, from the funding offers, the typical client, as I mentioned, will get 4 to 7 offers. If they like any of those, they can take 1 or more. If not, we can keep working over here. Obviously, the stronger they are on paper, the more they're going to qualify for. But we do recognize some clients want some funding right away. But simply put, I would stick to the plan if I were you. I would make sure you have your referral link, which is free, for 4weekfunding.org. I drive people in here, and then the funding will occur naturally. You won't even have to worry about it. If you want more control, more involvement, then you should be a white label partner. And then you control the mentoring and you control the timing of the funding. Thank you, David. All right, well, we're going to keep it short and sweet today. So we have announced the relaunch of fundingproposal.online. We've explained the relationship and the flow that normally will occur. We also did express, you do have the option to direct people immediately for a funding proposal, but in most cases, we would bring them here. using your unique link. That's going to enable all the tracking automatically to make sure you get credit. And then we'll get them to funding either at the end of the 28 days or even sooner if there's a need, a desire for interim funding. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a great day.